how you can change the world just by meditating. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the Maharishi effect, which plainly states that if a certain amount of a population practices transcendental meditation, that they can have real effects on the remaining population. And this is most commonly measured through crime rates in the area. Now let's dive into it. Again, the Maharishi effect. In 1960, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi predicted that if 1%, just 1% of a population was to practice his form of transcendental meditation, that it would produce measurable outcomes on the whole population. Now, for example, this could be the population of a town or a city. This could even go as large as the population of a country. And then, of course, what is the extension of that? The population of the world. Now, the first time there was any kind of published any data about this, it was around 1974 and 1976. And the study showed that 1% of the meditating population, 1% of this population meditated in this transcendental meditation. And there is a distinction between transcendental meditation and transcendental meditation city program. A city is an SIDHI, but we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, 1% of the meditating population reduced the crime rate of that population by 16%. Now, I know that sounds incredulous. You know, you're telling me that a bunch of people sitting in a room somewhere meditating, had an effect on everyone around, them in that population. Yes. And this has continued to have been studied over and over again, decades following it, and every time it's been studied, it's proven to be true and accurate. They've studied this, and we'll get to that in a minute, but they've studied this in Washington, D.C., especially because D.C. has a lot of crime, and they have seen this repeatedly over and over again. And it's been so repeatable that they can even notify the mayor and the police of a place ahead of time. Hey, we're going to be doing this. Keep an eye out. You're going to notice there's less crime, and then less crime happens. That's kind of interesting. And the whole reason I'm making this video today about the Maharishi effect is because part of my goal in this channel and in spreading awareness and helping spread these spiritual teachings and concepts is to help the individual person live their best life, be the best version of themselves, and go from being the passenger of their life to being the driver, to changing their life consciously around them to what they want. And the other aspect of this too is the more of us that become fully embodied beings, that become fully awakened 100%, to our God-given, universe-given, creative and manifestive powers in this reality, then the more we help the population as a whole. Because even if the rest of the population isn't aware of any of these things, this study suggests that if we can just get 1% of the population on board meditating every day, then we can have a dramatic effect. I mean, imagine reducing crime by 16% across the entire planet. That would be just nuts, And then I believe the effects are much greater than crime, but crime is one of the easiest, measuring sticks that we can use to measure the effects. The only other way to measure it would be to survey everyone in the population. Do you feel better? Do you feel any better now that we've been doing this meditation for a couple of months, But again, I believe it's uplifting consciousness as a whole. Now, they redid these studies again, 1987, in Washington, D.C., as well as Delhi in India. And again, they found that over a decade, it was a decade study, violent crime went down 11% in the decade where people were doing this meditation every day. DC and Delhi both experienced violent crimes going down by the same amount. 11% was kind of interesting. In 1993, there was, because a lot of people still were calling bullshit on this. Well, in 1993, there was a heavily scrutinized study done in DC again by a very scrutinizing review board was really digging into this, and they're going, okay, guys, we're going to check all the math here. We're going to make sure that there's not, because some people may say, well, isn't it just true that crime is going down everywhere anyway? As time moves forward, there's less poverty, there's less child hunger, there's less, infant mortality rates in all these developing nations. Isn't it just true that as time moves forward, crime goes down? Well, they measured for this as well in this study, and they found, it's even funnier, when they did the heavily scrutinized study back in 1993, they found the maximum decrease of the crime was actually 23.3%. 23.3%. The crime went down more than they had originally thought when they began to really dig into the tests and the results. And They also measured against all other statistics, like we just talked about, time moving forward, crime should be going down anyway. They also looked at different policing techniques. Was anything different with the way the police were acting? Was anything different with, different charities or different volunteer or different aid being sent to different communities? Well, they analyzed all of this and they said, if in the absence of this meditation, it would be a 2 in 1 billion chance for this to happen without the transcendental meditation, just by random chance, this just happening, it would be a 2 in 1 billion chance. That's a p-value of 0.0000002, for those science-minded folks and statistical-minded folks. So no. Now, they've replicated these studies all around the world in different countries. I'm only listing a few here because I could list boards of this stuff. They did another study in Merseyside, England. Now, Merseyside, England, before the Meditator started, if you look in England, you can identify 11 of the largest metropolitan areas in England and Wales, like that whole area. There's 11 major city areas, let's say. Well, before the Meditator started, Merseyside, England was the 3rd highest in crime rate out of these 11. So number 3 out of 11 in crime rate. Up to 1987, they were the 3rd highest in crime rate. In 1988, the transcendental meditation practitioners started meditating. And quite literally in the first year, their crime rate dropped by 13.4%. And in this instance, this was the square root, because initially we said 1% of the population. This was the square root of 1% of the population. And they weren't practicing transcendental meditation. They were practicing the more advanced form, which is the transcendental meditation city program, or the yogic flying technique, which I'll get into in a minute. But in any case, it was the 3rd highest in crime rate in 1987. By the time they measured it again in 1992, it had the lowest crime rate out of all 11 metropolitan areas. So much so that in those 4 years, between 1988 and 1992, if the crime rate had remained steady and relative to all the other metropolitan areas, there would have been 255,000 more instances of crime in that 4-year time span. 255,000. But because of the meditators, those crimes were not committed. The area was more peaceful, and that metropolitan area became the lowest level of crime out of all 11 of these areas. It's insane. So here's where the distinction comes in, at least from the statistics that I'm reading. It's understood that if it's 1% of the population that practices just basic transcendental meditation, which I'm going to explain in a minute, and then it's a square root of 1%, much less, of those that practice the advanced form of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's TM City program meditation, which is claimed to be more powerful, and it incorporates this yogic flying technique. Now, let's get into what is transcendental meditation through the lens of the Maharishi effect. Because remember, transcendental meditation, there are many ways of doing this, and I'll link a couple videos below in the description and probably on the little end card to all kinds of different kinds of meditation and how you can try meditation yourself. I don't believe, quite honestly, that it matters very much how you're practicing the transcendental meditation, but it's more about the fact that you're changing your own vibration, right? We are all humans. We all have fields of energy. Fields of energy all overlap. The earth has a field. We have a field. And they're like bubbles that overlap. Smaller bubbles overlapping larger bubbles. And the heightened vibration, the pure, the conscious awareness we can embody, that energy goes out to everyone. And it goes out through these overlapping spheres, kind of like induction through electrical energy, where the electron can move from field to field to field. Well, electricity is energy, the information in the energy can go from field to field to field. It's kind of how astrology works, in my opinion, is that all the astrological bodies have fields of energy, right? And all these fields are overlapping, and the solar system has a field, and science has proven this too. Galaxies have a field. Well, it's all overlapping bubbles, and information can travel, energy travels from the bubbles, inner bubbles to the outer bubbles, and vice versa. I don't really think it matters too much how you are practicing this. It's just this is the form that was done for the studies. But in any case, transcendental meditation, as taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and scandal aside, there are some negative things associated with this guy's practices and things, we're keeping that separate from the technique because the technique has been scientifically proven to be accurate. The rest of it, I'm not concerned with. They do charge a lot of money to teach you the transcendental meditation. I don't believe it's necessary to learn it from them. You can learn transcendental meditation on your own. And I'm going to explain to you the basics of his form of TM meditation anyway, for free on this channel. The transcendental meditation that Maharishi teaches is a mantra-based meditation. And if you know our video on mantra, I'll link that down below. Usually mantra is repeated through the lips, right? You say the mantra, Aum Mani Padme Hum, Aum Mani Padme Hum, Aum Mani Padme Hum, Aum Mani Padme Hum. You say the mantra over and over again, and it's the sound, the syllabic sounds that are being produced, usually by the Sanskrit mantras that hold juice. But it's ultimately another form of a focus technique also. You're immersing yourself with the energy behind the mantra and the thousands and millions of people that have practiced it for thousands of years. So you're embodying that energy, you're tapping into that channel of energy, that frequency. But at the same time, it's also acting as a focus point so that you're pulling awareness away from the mind and putting it into the mantra. Well, the difference with Maharishi's transcendental meditation is it's a mantra-based meditation, but it's a silent mantra. So the thought is you pay these people all this money, you meet one-on-one with the TM teacher, they pick a custom mantra for you based on some metrics, who knows. And you could tell by my attitude that I'm a little incredulous about their process. I think they just want to make money, to be quite honest with you. They pick a silent mantra for you. I think any mantra will work. You just work with it and find what works best for you. You don't have to pay someone $1,000 to tell you how to do it. It's a silent mantra. So instead of repeating the mantra on the lips, you keep the mantra in your mind. And Maharishi Mahesh Yogi specifically has stated, and I'll leave a link to his quotes in the description, that doing the mantra silently and also picking a mantra for which you do not have any mental meaning attached to it. This is why they don't use English words or other language words. They use Sanskrit, because there is no like one meaning. Each Sanskrit word has a host of meanings. Kind of like how in Asian languages, the characters, the symbols, can mean multiple different things. Whereas in English, a word means something. Because if you get caught in the meaning of the word, you get caught in the mind. So with his transcendental meditation, focusing on repeating the silent mantra effortlessly. They say it's effortless, but you got to focus on the mantra. They say it's not a focus-based meditation, but you're focusing on the mantra in your mind. But anyway, by repeating that mantra silently in your mind, and you are repeating it in different sound variations, but mentally, and you're focusing on that essentially, that he says that's the gateway to the transcendental space. And by transcendental meditation, they mean transcending regular consciousness and entering into pure awareness, that pure, ubiquitous awareness that is pervasive throughout the entire universe. That's the idea of transcendental meditation in general, is that you are transcending the level of thought, the level of body, of mind, of consciousness, and going into that pure aware state. And the vehicle that Maharishi Mahesh uses is the silent mantra repeating in his head. And this isn't something he just came up with, by the way. This is from the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, that Patanjali came up thousands of years ago in the yogic system that has been built in India. So this isn't anything new. You let your thoughts go by. Again, we're not trying to control our thoughts. We're not trying to create a clear mind. We're focusing on the mental mantra. And as we do that, the mind naturally quiets, and it leads us into this place of the transcendental awareness. We finding that inner pure awareness and the effortlessness of it. There is no trying, right? That's the base level. Now, what they call TM City, or the yogic flying technique, is the next level of that. But basically, with the yogic flying technique, you kind of hop like a frog. So you're sitting in a cross-legged position, or you're sitting in full lotus, right, where your feet are up above your knees. And then quite literally, you start bouncing across the room, hopping like a frog, while you're doing the transcendental meditation in your mind. And the idea behind this is that by activating the brain and the body from this transcendental state, that you're generating energy while you're in the pure awareness state, and it makes it allegedly way more powerful. Now, according to these studies, it seems to show that there is some evidence to that, because the square root of 1% is needed to make the same changes that 1% was needed for the original transcendental meditation. I don't think it's that much different, to be honest with you. I think the transcendental meditation will be more than powerful enough. And I don't think it's good for the body necessarily to be in full lotus and then bouncing yourself across the room, because you're putting a lot of pressure on the tendons and the joints in that position. So I wouldn't recommend trying it, but I'm gonna link the video so you can see what I'm talking about. Quite honestly, I'm gonna look into this myself to see, can we not supplement that body activity with something else, right? Is it possible that while we're doing sitting meditation, can we just do Kundalini punches? Now, Kundalini punches are more when you're holding your breath and doing punches. You're generating energy while holding the breath. You're activating the Kundalini energy. But in the same way, can you be in meditation and maybe just be throwing punches? You know, or doing something where you're activating the body, doing a walking transcendental meditation, or maybe a running transcendental meditation. You're still generating energy. You're still in the same place, but it's not as bad on the knees and the legs. That's just my opinion. But anyway, my friends, this is a video on the Maharishi effect. I believe what this effect shows us is that we really do affect and change reality, even with something as simple as meditating. If by meditating, and it doesn't matter what way we do it, we have an effect on the population around us. What does that tell us? That tells us that things like the law of vibration are real. That tells us that this reality is a much different place than we scientifically believe, of what we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell with our five senses. There's something more going on here. And it also tells us that if we can all get together and do this together, we can quite literally change the planet for the better. You know, better as in my opinion of better, but I think lower crime rates better, you know. So my friends, if you like this video, do me a favor, please like the video. Give us a little thumbs up. Go ahead and click the subscribe button and ping the notification bell so you don't miss any more of our videos. And I can't wait to see you guys next time, and check out the video in the description of the yogis bouncing across the floor. It's kind of funny. Anyway, I hope you guys make it a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.